kind of a dry logic. What do we get out of it? I mean, scientifically speaking, it's really good. It's very important knowledge. But then, I mean, for an individual, happiness in terms of gaining more insight into one's life, you know, opening up of the wisdom. In terms of these situations, the understanding of H2O doesn't help that much. I am not against science. I have to make it clear. And I'm not against technological, progress, proliferation. But in terms of individual happiness, how much this knowledge really helps. We might become attached to this knowledge to the point where we become so stubborn, we think we are skeptic. But are we really skeptic about our skepticism? Are we sure that our skepticism is not some kind of rooted to our deep belief in self, which is byproduct of overly confidence? Are we sure that our skepticism is really a skepticism, or is it a byproduct of psychological fantasy, overly, confident byproduct? So we say I'm skeptic. Tibetan equivalent word for skepticism might be something like unprejudiced in Tibetan, if you translate it literally, which means your mind doesn't necessarily abide on one single idea which you like so much, which you seem to like so much. So you're not sure, you didn't understand, you're confused, so you accept your own weaknesses at the same time, not trying to self-empower to the point where you think you know everything, yet you also know that there is a lot of things that you still don't know. There is lots and lots of mystery which is unsolved. Even scientifically speaking, it's true. So sometimes we have to really be careful with our skepticism itself, because it's very dangerous. It becomes, rather than being unprejudiced, it becomes really prejudiced and ideologically stubborn person that we can become. So what I am trying to say here is, I lost the track of my thought. Sip of water. So we have to really make sure that in spiritual understanding, logic has to be moistened with the value of emotion. Otherwise, it becomes really dry and really incomplete in many respects. So there is in order to understand something fully, we have to be open-minded, and our emotions actually help us to become open-minded. If you are compassionate, and even if you are trying to investigate a murder case, for instance, you become broad-minded. You want to observe. You don't necessarily say he's really criminal, he is bad, and he is this and that. You have this, although you are smart, although you want to go deep into the matter, you still have some kind of openness, which is provided by the compassionate degree of compassion you have. So logic that has the taste of emotion is considered to be wisdom, and logic which is totally dry and pushed by the skepticism of self-belief that you know everything is considered dry and in many ways useless in spiritual understanding. So that's the difference between logic, mind, and wisdom. So when our own experience is involved in our logic, then our logic, kind of have the taste of wisdom. And that wisdom really starts to grow larger and bigger. And then slowly we come to realize many things which we previously or not so long time ago think strange. It's really strange. So this also tells us that in Dharma, teacher is considered as a means to enhance our wisdom, not necessarily as a person who you look up. It's good to look up to what our teacher says and does, but if you totally rely on your teacher so bad to the point that you think he is kind of Buddha in many ways, then you are getting it wrong. Teacher in Buddhist understanding is a person who helps us increase our wisdom, and not the person we have a lot of hope that he might be enlightened one. He might be, a person who has no, emotional difficulties at all, and things like that. Then sometime if you come to find out the other way around, then you become so depressed. So you have actually made your teacher a victim of your own weaknesses, because we don't believe in ourselves. We think we are pathetic, and that's why we have so much belief and so much hope in someone. Our weakness has made our teacher a victim of our own weakness. So that shouldn't be the case. One thing. Teacher is considered as a ways and means to achieve higher insight in our life. And ultimately, we have to have the kind of spiritual confidence that we spoke last time. Spiritual confidence and spiritual boldness at the same time. Because we are not worried much about what our neighbor is doing. We are not worried much about what our Dharma brothers and sisters are doing. We are not worried much about anything else. We just worried about our own business. We just want to achieve what we want. We have decided on something that we want to achieve and will do whatever it takes to achieve that. And that's kind of spiritual boldness, spiritual ego, and Tantra practice actually boosts that ego, spiritual ego, so to speak, to the point where you have a strong belief in yourself. Your confidence really generates like a fire, you know, and your passion to achieve your goal also becomes like a fire in a way. If the fire is really strong and very hot, then something has to melt. And I think this teaching actually also talks about that part in a way. There are a lot of hidden teachings like these you will find in these verses, which may not be very obvious as such, but when we come to realize many things, and also when we have experience, what little experience we have can just mix with it, and then we'll understand things in a totally different light. So literal understanding is just literal. We have to go deeper than that. We have to try to dig, you know, and as we practice, we'll be able to have that digging power more. Regardless of how long we spend living together, good friends and relations must someday depart. Our wealth and possessions collected with effort and are left far behind at the end of our life. Our mind, but a guest of our body's great guest house, must vacate. Is that how you pronounce? Vacate one day and travel beyond. Cast away thoughts that concern but this lifetime. The sons of the Buddha all practice this way. This looks a very gloomy scenario in a way, and I don't think it's good to add my own gloomy thoughts to it to make it more gloomier. I think some people have this criticism saying that Buddha, you know, when he started to teach, he taught about suffering, and that's really a very gloomy scenario, and that's why